It's time to get clear, get heard, and get paid. And join us on our Soul Business Retreat. Attract your dream clients and income over 3 nights as we shape your passion into a business that makes a profit. Follow our 13 steps to reach 5K in 30 days in the beautiful Byron Bay. Whether you're starting, growing, or expanding your business, our all-inclusive 3-night retreat is the place for you. Check out the details in the show notes, and we hope to see you soon. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today I'm with the beautiful Rosanne, who has been teaching yoga for over 20 years and is also a chakra expert. Her mission is sharing the wisdom of chakras, and also as an intuitive, she offers detailed chakra readings that help clients better understand themselves and to navigate life with more ease. As a yoga teacher, a meditation leader, and a chakra expert, welcome to the show, Rosanne, and thank you so much for being here.
I am thrilled to be here. I feel like we're going to have a really fun conversation, Catherine. So thank you for having me on. It's lovely to meet you.
Me too. And thank you so much for joining me. So we were just brainstorming quickly before we hit record, but I feel like we have to talk about chakras because you're a chakra expert and it's always been alluded on. So what is the deal with chakras? What are they? And take it away.
Oh my goodness. Okay, how long have we got? This is okay. So, I am so passionate about people understanding their chakras, and the reason being because when we understand our chakras, we can understand ourselves. Put simply, I always say that chakras kind of give you a map to your energetic body. They introduce you to the energy of the subtle body. So we all know we live in the physical, these beautiful meat suits that we walk around in. But understanding where we hold certain energies that encompass our entire lives. So we can map our entire lives through the very simple system of the chakras. And we have these 7 energy centers within our bodies, and they actually do correspond physically not only to nerve plexuses, and I don't think that's a word, but plexus being a bundle of nerves. So we've got these various bundles of nerves that come out. I think probably the clearest one that you can see, and you can see in a picture of the nervous system from the spine, there are these nerves plexuses that come out. They correspond with those. They also correspond with parts of our endocrine system, so our hormonal system as well. And they represent, or they hold within them, a certain sort of section of your body. So each chakra has this sensitivity, this energy. It has a part of the endocrine system, it has a part of the body, but it also holds part of our spiritual life, or our sort of wider emotional life, if you like. And when I'm explaining chakras to somebody who goes, never even heard, do I have chakras? What are they? I always say there are 7 things that every single human on the planet needs within their lives. So if we just go really briefly from the bottom to the top, at the root chakra, we hold our family. So we all came from somewhere. Whether we like them or not, we came from a family. We were birthed. We were brought up. We have a foundation and we all need in our lives: security, stability, safety. These are things that we all need within us. Then we go up to the sacral chakra. This represents emotions. So we all feel emotions. We all have to process and deal with emotions. But we also have in this energy center our sexuality. We all have a sexuality, whatever that looks like. We all have a need for pleasure and fun and play and creativity. That's where this part of our lives sits. Then we move up to the solar plexus. Now, this is our place in the world. We all need to sort of have a place in the world, to be seen, to be understood, to have a sort of an outward projection. But it's also to do with work, and our personal power, our sense of ourselves. So this is where the ego lives, whether you like that word or not. It's that sense of self and self-esteem that lives in the solar plexus. So we all need to have that within our lives. Then we come up to the heart. In the heart chakra, very obvious one, is love, compassion, empathy. We all need to be loved. We all want to give love and be loved. We all want to have relationships with friends, with the wider world. This is our healing center. There's so much beautiful stuff that lives here: forgiveness, trust, all of those kind of aspects of our lives. Excuse me. Then we come up to the throat chakra. Isn't that funny how I coughed just as I got there?
That was funny.
we all have a need, an essential need to communicate. However that communication is, whether it's spoken, singing, artistically, expressing ourselves in some way. We all need to do that. Then we come up to our third eye. This is our deep inner knowing. This is our intuition. This is our knowing of ourselves, an understanding of a kind of a relationship with ourselves, that relationship with our inner voice. I always like Michael Singer's explanation of this, where you have this kind of, you have the listener and you have the voice and you have the listener. Who is it that's listening? And sometimes when we have that, it's often called the monkey mind or the monkey brain or something, that chatter. But there is somebody listening to that chatter. Who is that person? He always says it's like having that annoying flatmate who just never leaves, just sat on the sofa constantly criticizing you. Anyway, so it's that connection with that inner you, that intuition, that knowing, that clarity, perspective. And then we come up to the crown chakra, and this is where we all need, and this is, I find, a very interesting one, because we all need some kind of connection to a higher power. History has shown us that religion, beliefs, are intrinsic to being a human being. We need to have this connection with something bigger than ourselves. And so it's our divine connection, our mysterious, awe-filled connection. So that's a really, really brief explanation of each of the chakras. And if there's a part of your life that I haven't mentioned that you think, oh, she's missed out that, you mention it and I'll be able to attribute it to a chakra. There is nothing within your life that you're not holding within you, within your energetic body. Because the theory is, and this has been proven scientifically, it's, quantum physics, which I love, is that everything is energy. Every experience that you've had, every thought, every conversation, everything that's ever been impactful on your life, and maybe the things that haven't been impactful, stay within your body. They live at a cellular level in vibrational form within your body. And if you don't believe me, then think about the physical sensations that you have when you're nervous, when you fall in love, when you have your heart broken, when you don't feel safe. Our body responds energetically and physically to these things. And when you get to know your chakra system and you can understand the messages that it's sending you, that your body is sending you, suddenly everything becomes more clear. We just have this deeper understanding of the self. And I really believe that the chakras underlay all healing modalities. I think it's there under everything, and you and I both talk to a lot of healers in our lives, and there's nobody that I've ever talked to for whom I cannot go, oh, well, no, that's completely different. That's a whole new ball game. No, it's all related back to the chakras.
Yeah, even you might find people who work with auras, but then the auras link back to the chakras, and then you find people who work in bioresonance, again, links back to the chakras, and it's this continual cycle of coming back to those energy centers. And exactly like you said too, Rosanne, like when, for me, I spent last year unpacking my solar plexus because I had a really low self-worth value, and to the point where I was pushing away subconsciously money. And I knew it was my solar plexus. I knew that's where it was coming from. And I did so much work to tap into that and, brighten the light and do the empowerment things and all that stuff. And then it was very much linked to my throat chakra, which we were talking about just before the show, which is part of why I started the podcast. But people meet me and they go, your throat chakra was weak? I'm like, that's right. Did lots of work on it, to blow it open, because, when you know that there's that imbalance as well, then you can take back that power and actually work on it and strengthen it.
Yeah. It's such a. The reason I really love it is because it is, once you understand the system, and it's really quite simple, you can then use there are so many different ways of finding balance and finding equilibrium. And I came to the chakras through my yoga practice. I started off my life being one of those people who just liked going to yoga classes, and I didn't really know why. I just knew that it made me feel good and it made me a nicer person, and it was just my thing. I could, I just knew that it was really just a helpful tool in my life. And it was really, even like a decade after I'd started teaching, that I began to really understand what the chakras were. And the thing that really sort of started it all off was I was on a yoga retreat in India, on a beautiful 2-week yoga retreat. And I woke up, actually I didn't even wake up. I went to bed and my hips started to hurt. And I was like, this is really weird. So I was just sort of shuffling around in my bed and a bit of stretching here and there. And I was like, oh, this isn't getting any better. And I got out of bed and did some stretches again, moved around. It's like, why are my hips just like aching? This like deep ache. And then it started to spread down towards my knees and up into my elbows. And I'm like, okay, this is really freaky. What is going on here? And I knew that, it wasn't a stomach thing. I hadn't eaten anything bad. And I knew that I'd been drinking water because, in India it's hot and yoga, and, I was drinking plenty of water. So I know I wasn't dehydrated. Anyway, I suffered through the night. It was agony. I was in absolute agony. And I did not know what was going on. All I could do was just lie there and breathe and just drink water and hope that it would ease. And eventually it did, and by the morning I was fine, and I got a few hours sleep, but I was weak, and I didn't do yoga the next morning. So after breakfast, I went to my yoga teacher and said, what's going on here? And she goes, have you thought about looking at your sacral chakra? What's going on there? And I'm like, no, don't really know what the chakras are. Don't really know what that's all about. Anyway, started looking into it, and just like 1,000 light bulbs went off in my head. Because yes, the chakras, the sacral chakra had been stuffed so many emotions down and not processed, ignored, brushed everything under the carpet for probably my entire life. And the yoga work that we've been doing in the retreat had begun to crack that open. And I had so much stuff, so much crap that needed to be cleared out. And it came out in a big old flood of pain in my hips. And yes, it spread up and down and showed me all sorts of things. The pain in the knees was all about the direction of my life. The pain in the elbows was all about the heart chakra stuff. But that started me off, and I was like, this is so blatantly, obviously clear what I've been doing to myself in my life. And, I think, it's very typical of somebody of my generation. I'm 55. So my parents, lovely and beautiful, gorgeous as they are, and I love them to death. But, the emotional availability, the emotional conversations, it's like, oh, we don't need to talk about that, darling, and we don't go there. We keep it all on the surface, and anything that's uncomfortable just gets put in the corner. And that's how I was brought up. And so the work that I had to do in order to go, okay, so I've got to unpack, 30, 40 years worth of stuff. sort it all out. And the chakras were my guide. And really, by learning about them, and I was so fascinated. I used to, all these books, all this research, and I would write it all down. So I created this huge document that was really just for myself, because I wanted to learn this stuff. It was like a self-study thing. I'd never done anything like that since school. I was like, no, I am studying this. And then I brought it into my yoga classes. So then I still do run yoga days. And I was like, okay, so maybe I can introduce the chakras to my students in a yoga day. And the first one I did, I tried to put all 7 chakras into one day.
Wow,
like,
wow.
Okay, that didn't work. I literally barely scratched the surface. We're out of time. This is not enough. So then I went back and I started doing them one by one. And my students responded to this so well, and it seemed such an obvious way to explore the chakras, because knowing it in your mind is one thing, but experiencing it within your body, really meditating on it, breathing through it, using the body, for me, that's the really powerful work of the chakras. Because they are very much embodied, you can leave the busy old brain. The brain thinks it's bloody brilliant, and it really isn't. It just gets confused and it has too many thoughts. No, give the brain a break and take the work into your body. The number of times I've taught heart opening poses and people start crying, and they're like, I don't know why I'm crying, and they're like, I'm not even sad, I just want to flow tears. I'm like, no, that is brilliant. That makes me so happy that you're crying. I'm sorry, but it does.
Let it out. Let it out. Or as Elsa would say, let it go.
Exactly.
We won't start singing Frozen. It's okay.
I sing that a lot.
Same.
Let It Go, and then the other one is Let It Be. The two very, very good songs if you are that way inclined. But yeah, it's so using the body to connect with your energy centers and using the breath is super powerful, and that's the work that I love to do. Yeah.
And it's so funny you say that, because with my coaching group, we've actually been working through the different chakras, starting from the base, the root, to build that safety first, and then working up through the different ones and clearing and rebalancing, so that you can actually tap into what you want and create it without it's not that it fully goes away, but the worst stories coming up and the safety issues coming up and all the other emotions that come up. So it can be used in so many different ways and so many different aspects, and it's not just they're just energy centers that you can tap into. They're infinite, and once you can, and if one of them, I feel too, people don't realize, if one of them's out of whack, everything's going to be out of whack.
Yeah. No, I mean, you always start at the root of the foundation.
Yeah.
And I always say it's that if you were building a 7-story building, you would want to make damn sure that your foundations were good, because nothing else is going to work. So yeah, that building it up is crucial. And it's interesting. From the big study that I did and all the work that I've done, I created a big course, like everything I know, all into this big, massive course, which I used to teach over a few weeks. Now I teach over a few months. I realized that it takes the integration is always so important. But sometimes when people get let loose, they go, oh, well, I just went up to the third eye chakra. I'm like, no. There's so many people who are just like, they found meditation and they're just like, they discover that being up in these ethereal chakras, up in the third eye and the crown, yeah, it's a lovely place to be, but that's proper head in the clouds time, and we need to be rooted. So I love to, they have partnerships. All the chakras have a partnership, apart from the crown, which has its own partnership with the universe. But you can relate the two. So for me, what I find really interesting is the relationship between the Well, and I guess this again is very personal to me, so it's why I find it interesting, is the between the hips and the throat chakra. So when you're in class and I'm teaching something like Supta Baddha Konasana, so, cobbler's pose, the knees out wide, feet together, lying back, I find that people's chins go up, their jaw sort of juts up, and they tense in the neck and the throat. And I'm like, your jaw can't help you now. You've got to relax. They're very, very connected because they're both places of emotional expression. The hips hold our emotional foundations and they hold all of our emotions. But where do we express our emotions? With our jaw, with our mouth. If you think about the number of expressions that there are just that you can do with your mouth without saying anything, the shock, the laughter, the anger, there's so many emotions that, all of our emotions expressed through the jaw, through the mouth, in the neck, tension in the back of the neck and so on, deeply connected to the sacral. So those two sit together quite well. So yeah, we compare them all up. The solar plexus and the third eye, both seats of deep intuition. We have the gut brain axis for a start that is obviously clearly been proven and is accepted in all walks of medical and spiritual life.
Thank you, Heart Math Institute. Thank you.
Exactly. But we have this belly brain and this gut instinct, this deep knowing that sits deep in our bellies. And I just find that all of these, and of course then the safety at the root, connected very deeply to our heart. If we don't feel safe, we are going to be closed-hearted. If we don't feel like we've got security, we're going to be, we're not going to allow ourselves to be vulnerable in our heart. So these connections are, as you say, infinite, fascinating, and glorious to explore.
It's so funny when you were talking before about being in the upper chakras. I was guilty of that because I was so happy up there, like catching up on all the dormant years. I'll call them the dormant years, right? And I'm just like, yeah, like meditating all the time, up there. And I'm like, whoa, I don't feel great. Like I would have the ground feel like it was moving underneath me and get the dizziness. And I'm like, and then all I just heard was ground, base chakra, ground. And I'm like, okay, because, it's so... especially because it's so, I don't know how to explain it, what the word is, but, when you're up there, it's just like nothing else matters, I guess, and it all kind of falls away, especially when you're in that crown chakra and tapping into your third eye and, and then you're like, oh, hang on, I've got to come back down, like you said, to the meat body, right? So to the meat suit. And you're just like, oh, okay. But again, I feel so much better when I actually do ground and then go up there. It's almost like you have that anchor to just keep you where you need to be. Yeah.
I mean, we are, spirits and energy having a very earthly experience. This is this lifetime that we get in this particular meat suit that we're wandering around in, is for a reason, so that we can experience everything that it is to be human. And if we escape off into that spirituality world, which, yes, is lovely, and yes, go there, but keeping yourself grounded, keeping yourself anchored, it is really important. And I find it's quite interesting because I do chakra readings as well. I do, they're intuitive with a pendulum. I go very, very deep into each chakra to find out what aspect, because there are so many different aspects within each chakra. And it's all very well saying, oh, your root chakra's out of balance. But okay, but which aspect of the root chakra? Is it around safety? Is it around food? Is it around your family? Is it around your house, your home? Is it around money? Like where is this instability happening? But quite often I find people just in such a rush to be, so that's all, the root and those earthly chakras, the first three, the root, the sacral and the solar plexus, can be sort of weak, and then the top ones are really strong. And I'm like, it's all very, you can't rush this, or people are in a rush to get up to this. And it's so important that we keep ourselves balanced. You know, this energy wants to flow from the base up to the crown, and it needs to keep flowing, and we want all of them to be open, because without them we're not the full package. You know, we're not fulfilling our potential if part of our life is out of balance or not energetic.
And it's so funny you were saying that, and you brought up the root chakra, because I was having a discussion with a family member the other week, and they were just projecting all their fear onto me, and they were just kept bringing up like money and house and all these things, and I went, oh, your root chakra is so out of whack. Like, it was that genuine fear, and that, you know, and it was that extreme materialism, and that, you know, coming back to those extreme needs. And it was so funny, because I'd just been, you know, studying and teaching that through my coaching things, and I just stood back and I went, wow, that's what an imbalanced root chakra looks like. You know, it was just, you know, and when you have that understanding, you get that insight when you work with other people too.
Yes. Yeah, I find it's really, really useful for understanding other people. Yeah. It really helps you actually to develop your empathy and your compassion, because when you meet someone and they are so clearly ungrounded, or they're, you know, in the case of your person who's obsessing about material stuff and money, you know, that speaks very much to the third eye as well, a sort of connection, because of the illusions that that's what, you know, the story that they're telling themselves is. So it's I've lost my train of thought completely. Sorry, it disappeared.
They get the root chakra, and they get stuck in their delusions of the third eye, and then they can't see. Well, they can't actually see outside their own illusion that they've created, right?
Yeah, but exactly. So when that's what I was saying. When you understand that that's what somebody's going through, you're able to, instead of just kind of making a judgment, and judgment is never healthy, whether it's on yourself or anybody else, you have an empathy. You go, okay, so that's where they are at. And, you know, when they're ready, they can do the work, or you can maybe introduce them to a little bit of something that might help them. But yeah, it is a fascinating thing when you can recognize it in somebody else, you know, like somebody's third throat chakra is overactive. That's always a fun one, when somebody is just dominating the conversation, or they're super gossipy, or they're, you know, like, because each chakra has an energy about it. It can be balanced, beautifully, evenly balanced, but we have overactive and we have underactive as well. So it's not just a sort of imbalance or out of balance. There's shades of this. And some people have too much energy, and other people have not enough energy. I always liken it to like a set of water wheels, you know, and if they're all running smoothly, beautiful, you've got this constant flow of water energy. But sometimes one is loose, you know, we need to tighten up those, and other times other ones are clogged up and they need to be unclogged. There's different ways that this energy can be sitting within you, and working out whether it's overactive or underactive, again, is a really useful thing, because it then shows you how to work, how to find balance. Because, for example, in your solar plexus, where the element is fire, it's a nice, easy one to visualize, because if you imagine you have this inner fire and you want it to be just right, you want it to be keeping you warm, to firing you up. But it's a very different story if it's underactive, if it's just mere embers, then you're not going to be keeping warm, you're not going to have the energy. Whereas if it is overactive, this fire is out of control. And it's scary, you know, a fire that's out of control. If you imagine it, this fire that you have, it wants to be in your home. When I'm doing a chakra reading, I ask people to visualize what their inner fire looks like. Catherine, is so fascinating. I've had everything from somebody who had a boiler room, and this fire was so fierce that they had people working down there for them, feeding the fire. Yeah.
Wow.
I've had people whose fires are in a chimney, but the fire is coming out of the chimney into the room. You know, it's so raw, out of control. And then I've had other people who had little cartoon flame, or like a little blue pilot light, or, you know, and then everything in between. You know, it's really interesting to visualize what that element is. And you can do that at all of the elements. But for me, the solar plexus is always really telling. And it's a very clear indication of how somebody's solar plexus chakra is. So, yeah, if you want to do a little experiment, just sit for a moment, close your eyes, bring yourself into that solar plexus area, just where the ribs meet, and just go visit with your inner fire. Just have a little look, see how it's doing.
It's so funny you say that, because I've been working really hard on, I was telling you that like my solar plexus was really low. You know, I had to do lots of work to bring back the fire. But then it also affected my digestion to the point that I couldn't eat meat for a very long time, because my body actually couldn't process it, because there wasn't enough digestive fire to actually process it and turn it on. So now that I've done all this work on the solar plexus, and then I've worked with like an acupuncturist and the meridians and things like that I can actually process meat again. I still can't eat heaps of it, but at least enough that I don't feel, and it's not, it was, everyone's like, oh, so you're vegetarian. I'm like, not by choice. You know, like, and it's not that I loved meat, but I knew that my body actually still needed that, because that's how my body was functioning. Like, it needed the iron, and I could feel that it needed the iron, and I hate taking iron supplements. If anyone's had iron supplements, I fully understand why they're so horrible. I get it, you know, so, but it was funny, like when you said that, I was like, oh, I just put two bits of the puzzle together, because I didn't even connect it, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, the solar plexus chakra, the organs that are related here are your digestive system and your core muscles. But, you know, I've actually in the process of, and by the time this comes out, I may have actually completed it and recorded it and put it out there. I'm in the middle of doing a minor chakra studies, because just the main 7 isn't enough for me. I need to go even deeper, because we have 21 minor chakras as well as the 7 main chakras, and so we're talking in the
hands, ears, all the fun
stuff. Exactly. It is the Earth Star chakra beneath us, all the galactic ones above us, but then we have chakras in your knees, in your reproductive organs, in your kidneys, your liver, your spleen, your stomach, you know, all of these areas. But the stomach one is really interesting, because that is where emotions are digested, not just the physical digestion. So if anybody,
I feel it in my back, in that emotional center. Like when I was doing a lot of neuroemotional technique, every time an emotion cleared, I could feel it in my back every single time. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
And that's the other thing, is that the, you know, when you see the picture of the sort of somebody sitting there in, you know, in cross legs, and you see the chakras up the front of them, but actually the chakras come out behind. They in all you know, in all directions, front and back. The main ones, the root and the crown go sort of all the way. But learning about the energies that sit outside of you as well is fascinating. So like the Earth Star chakra, I love this Vasundhara, because this Earth Star chakra sits about a foot beneath your soles of your feet. And its sole purpose in life is to keep you grounded, connected to Mother Earth, keep you solid. And for those people who spend their lives up in the clouds in the head, then knowing this chakra is really good. And when the root chakra has so many other important things to do, you know, family, survival, strength, confidence, you know, all of the safety, all of these really important things, just to add grounding work to it, which is really important work. Seems a lot for the poor little root chakra to hang on. It's got a lot of responsibilities. So when we find a minor chakra that's got the work that can do that work, then it's a beautiful gift. You're like, oh, there it is, steady. Like I feel like it's like this sort of big heavy cannonball, like keeping me. I don't know, in Australia, if you have the weebles, you know, the weebles that wobble, that they don't fall down.
Oh, yes.
You're wrong generation.
Yeah. No. We used to do it with there was like this custard powder that would come in like this thing and it would wobble. I don't know. I still remember that image. But yeah, I would just sit there as a child and just like push it so it would just keep wobbling like that. Anyway, I fully get what you're talking about.
So whatever image works for you. For me, it's weebles. For you, it's custard. Who knew? Whatever image it is, because simply having the awareness is where this work is just the awareness. And once you've spent some time understanding your own chakras or studying the chakras as a whole, once you've got this awareness in your body, you're not going to forget it. It's not going to be like, oh, I forgot completely about that. No, it's part of your life and it's there for you forever. And it is, that's pretty much, that's 90% of the work. Once you have the awareness of it, that's the big chunky bit of the work. And the rest of it is just satisfying that knowing. So, doing your yoga practice in a certain way, or, journaling or breath work, or, whatever it is that floats your boat. And this is why I love to talk to, people like you as well, who have lots of different ways of healing, because you can just apply it in whichever way, whichever modality you're using.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I started doing my medical intuitive work, I'd get a color and it would be whatever chakra was imbalanced, right? It was never like the aura or anything like that. It was always like, no, red, yep, root chakra. Okay, you got to do X, Y, Z. And then I would come from like a more physical point of view, like, hey, eat some more grounding vegetables and, bring sort of these things into your life and that sort of thing. But then because you've got your yoga knowledge, then you could bring your yoga poses and everything else in to tap into it. And I guess this is why it's so beautiful to have a synergy of people that you work with, because they all have different perspectives on how you can strengthen things or how you can really tap into your body and tap into what you need to do to, be your best self. Which we are, but shine brighter.
Yeah, I mean, this work never ends. Like there's no end goal. There's no sort of like, yay, I reached the finish line. No, the finish line is when you die happy and fulfilled and loved. This is the beautiful thing about this, is even though I've been working with the chakras for well over a decade now, and I know them so intimately, and I know the impact that they've had on my life and on the lives of those who are closest to me. I know that this is never going to end. I could never learn enough. I could never feel enough. But for me, it's the embodiment of it is the key. And the somatic work, I think, is the really important part of it. And that doesn't mean just doing a yoga practice, because, yoga is not for everybody. It can be, if picking up heavy things repeatedly is your thing, then great. If running or, even, I was going to say Pilates, but, like whatever it is that you're physically into, just be in your body. Just being in your body with the intention of connecting and listening and understanding your body, rather than just like, I want my body to look like this, and so I'm going to pick up this heavy thing or do this heavy thing repeatedly. Yeah, that's going to bring you some satisfaction, but it's not feeding your soul. And it's possible to do all of these things all at once. It's possible to love your body and do the heavyweight thing and create the shape of body or whatever it is you're after. I mean, I don't know, but with the right.
That's it.
I know why I've gone off on one about that.
Do what you love with the intention of tuning into your body. There you go.
Yeah. Thank you. Bringing me back from the edge.
Perfect. So as we finish up our time together, Rosanne, the question I ask all the guests are, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
I could heal or change something in the world. Oh my Lord, there's so much to heal and change. Ooh, okay, so I think what I would like to change would be, I would love for the education system in every country to teach this work, to teach children about their energetic body, about spirituality, about psychological healthy behaviors, about the inner voice. I think, us adults, we're responsible for ourselves, and honestly, there are some adults out there in the world for whom there is no hope, and that we're just going to have to suffer that. But the coming generations, they can learn, and if every school could have, rather than teaching, history, yes, history is important. Okay, so all the subjects are important, but if they could just be added into the curriculum, this
awareness,
health and health awareness, yeah, that's what I would do.
Beautiful. And I fully resonate with that. I'm going to talk to you more about it after we hit stop record, but you'll see why. And this is the universe bringing people together. And how can people find you, Rosanne? How can people find you?
Well, the best way is through my website, which is chakra-way.com. So chakra, if you just search Chakra Way, you'll find me. And there, I've got a yoga retreat coming up in Morocco. If anybody's on this side of the world would like to come and do 5 days of yoga in the most gorgeous place in November. I've got all my little audio courses, my big chakra courses, and of course, to book in if you want to do a chakra reading. That's also on there. So yeah, everything at chakra-way.com.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure I put that all in the show notes as well. So if anyone's driving and listening to this, they don't have to write it down. It's all good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for unpacking chakras, because it was definitely a conversation that needed to happen. So thank you.
You are so welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.